welcome. My name is Thomas Müller. I'm responsible for the unit Electric Electronics at Volvo Cars. The unit is responsible for the complete electrical architecture, for the HMI, for infotainment including connectivity, for the plug-in hybrid systems, and also for the body and comfort electronics. So in this all-new XC90, you will experience a couple of really world-first and new features. Starting with the HMI and the infotainment system, you see fully graphical displays in the cockpit, in the center stack, and we also have integrated a head-up display. On these displays, we bring the relevant information in the driving context to the customer. There's two very remarkable things with this new HMI in the all-new XC90. The one thing is that you see in the dashboard not so many buttons anymore. We have restricted us to 8 knobs and buttons. All of the rest has been integrated into the big center touch screen. The second thing which is very remarkable is that this center stack touch screen is a screen which has an HMI controlled by gestures, being very intuitive and very self-explaining. It basically consists of 3 panes. On the left pane, you have all of the car settings, which is the typical knobs and buttons which you find in the car. So you can switch on and off some of the functionality. You can even realign them in the way of how you would like to see them on the screen. So the center pane is the classical infotainment pane, but we have structured it in a very intuitive way by having navigation, media, which includes all of the different media which you could think of, from FM radio, AM radio, DAB, onto web radio or whatever music streaming services, and USB and CD. You have the phone pane, and you also have the fourth tile, which we call the application tile, which is freely programmable, so the customer can choose the application in the car which he or she wants to put on this fourth pane. The applications are shown in the right pane. So you have all of the applications which are onboard applications, but you also will see here a population of all of our connected applications. The infotainment domain has another speciality, and we put a lot of effort in making it intuitive but also very quickly accessible. So once you've opened one of the menus, in this case navigation, you always have direct access to all of the other 3 important ones. So you can very easily access phone, place a phone call. Once you're calling, you go back. You go back into the main screen and you can directly access navigation. So you have very short ways of interacting and very flat menu structures. What is important for us is that the climate function, which has also been integrated into the screen, is visible all of the time. So for instance, setting your temperature, which you can do in both ways, by a slider, but also more precisely by plus and minus buttons, and also by switching on and off the seat heating, you can have direct access to these functions. If you want to do some more advanced settings, you just click on the climate functionality and then you see all of the typical settings. Also here, once again, in a very nicely displayed, very well structured and big image way of showing it. Important for us, as we want to have a very intuitive system, we do the settings always in the context of where you are. So if you go to settings and you are in a navigation menu, you can do all of the settings which are necessary for navigation. Once you're on the media, you can do all of the settings which are relevant for media. Also, owner's manual is structured in this way that you always get direct access and help in the context of where you are. So overall, this system gets very intuitive. It gets very easy to understand for the customer, and we have structured it in a very modern way, which is easy to operate. The main interest is to reduce customer distraction, because the customer has the task to drive safely, but giving him or her access to all the things which are needed. If you look into the cockpit is a 12.5-inch fully programmable graphical LCD cockpit. We also here display relevant information for the driving situation. So for instance, in this case, we show a navigation demonstration, but we also can operate in this menu via the knobs and buttons on the steering wheel, menus to place a phone call, menus to choose your media source, and so on, which are for the driver relevant in some situations. A head-up display is giving you the direct view on speed, is giving you the direct view on turn-by-turn indications is giving you information about the situation ahead of you, which we place directly in front of the viewing side of the customer, which is very relevant information, again, for the driving use case. This makes the experience of the customer a very new one because of the quick accessibility and the human-centric development. If I should talk a little bit about our technology once it comes to plug-in hybrids, we power this car with a plug-in hybrid and sell it as a twin engine. So we have a very powerful combustion engine which is combined with the 80 kilowatt rear axle driven electric motor. We have a driving range of over 40 kilometers and we have a battery pack centered in the center console of the car. This makes it very protective from crash situations, it makes it very safe, and of course you can, on a normal commute with a range of over 40 kilometers, do your daily commute purely electric if you wish. If you want to have more power, you can power the car with the two engines, the combustion engine and the rear axle engine, and by this you get 400 horsepower and a torque of over 600 Newton meters. So overall, this car is environmental friendly but also very powerful. If I should talk a little bit about our comfort electronics, we have integrated state-of-the-art comfort electronics from the holistical approach of how we operate the car, to seat settings, to the knobs and buttons in the car. Execution is on a high luxury variant, so that you see glossy, high glossy knobs and buttons in the car. You see crystal on our gear shift. And we have put a lot of attention to detail and to functionality and of course intuitiveness and ergonometry. Electrical architecture is also an area where I think we are world first of being the first manufacturer having all of the ECUs, which is the electrical control units, on AutoSAF 4. We have a domain architecture, which is a very modern architecture, which allow us to have a lot of headroom on the architecture for signals, because what you see nowadays is that the cars get more and more functionality, which are more and more distributed. So the different ECUs, computers in the cars, they need to exchange information. So by having a domain architecture, we can reduce the intra-domain bus load to only 40%, which gives us a lot of potential for growing functionality in the future. Connectivity, last but not least, is also a very important thing which lies in my area. On the connectivity side, we have the car fully connected as a standard. The car has telematics functionality, which is enabling the customer to remote control the car. This starts with climate functionality. It starts with finding the car, sending addresses to the car, doing a lot of location-based services around the car. We have on a second leg everything which we call connected infotainment. We have music streaming to the car. We have Storytel integrated, we have Park and Pay integrated, and many other functionality, which are just great services brought into the car, which makes sense in the driving use case. Also very important, we are one of the first ones in the industry which bring CarPlay into our cars. Apple CarPlay and then also Android Auto are important interfaces for us to leverage the functionality on the customer's phone. So if he wants to bring in data, if he wants to bring in services which are powered by the smartphone, they can be displayed in the center stack of the car, nicely integrated and very intuitively integrated, because we are using a touch face interface which the customer uses on the smartphone as well. So you have a very easy to use interface in the car.
My name is Thomas Broberg and I work as a Senior Technical Advisor for Safety at Volvo Car Safety Center in Gothenburg, Sweden. And I'm here with the all-new XC90, which is packed with our latest and greatest when it comes to safety technologies. This is an important car for us from a safety perspective because it's taking us yet another important step towards our vision of a crash-free future, but more importantly, towards our ambition that by 2020 no one should be seriously injured or killed in a new Volvo. This car has two new world firsts when it comes to safety. First, active safety. Our pioneering auto brake technology has been further enhanced, and we have now also included a world first with an auto brake functionality in situations when you're making a left turn and you have an oncoming vehicle, and this is a world first. Besides that, we have added night performance for our pedestrian detection with full auto brake technology. We also included more scenarios for bicyclists. And what's even further is that all these auto brake technologies, all these collision avoidance technologies are actually standard in this vehicle, and that's unique. But it doesn't stop there. We have yet another world first, and that is actually within protective safety or passive safety. When looking at our data, we found it critical to start working seriously with what we call run-off-road scenarios. Scenarios where the car is unintentionally leaving the road. We know from our data that these crashes are usually at high speed and can be quite severe and quite rough and complex when you land into quite rough terrain. What we also see in our data is that in these types of situations, spine injuries are quite common, and we wanted to address that. So we have included a world first, a sensor that detects that the car is leaving the road. We will then pull in the belts in order to attach you firmly to the seat. And more importantly, to reduce any axial load that you will get on your spine, we have also included a deformation element that will deform the seat and absorb some of the energy as the car is landing in rough terrain, or if it's rolling and then landing on its wheel. And this is groundbreaking from Volvo when it comes to addressing yet another real-life world scenario. Of course, we have further enhanced all our already existing technologies when it comes to safety. The safety cage has been further strengthened in the sense that this car, compared to the old XC90, contains 5 times more high strength and boron steels, and that's unique within the industry. We now have high strength steel up to 40% of the vehicle body weight, and this is unique. We have pre-tensioners in all 7 seating positions, load limiting functionality in the rear seat, amongst others. So this car is really the latest and greatest when it comes to safety. Yeah, and this car is really important for us in order to meet our vision 2020. The vision of a crash-free future, but more importantly, our ambition that by 2020 no one should be seriously injured or killed in a new Volvo car.